And I think the system itself, obviously in the department at some point during that process, failed me.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of the Suffering of Retaliation with Freddie Mitchell. Stay tuned because part 2 starts now. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Falaise, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. Follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but that did slip my mind, that her family got murdered. And they were down south?
They were in outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Or Hershey, some part of Pennsylvania. I think it was Harrisburg.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What exactly
Bucks
happened?
County. Her older brother ended up murdering her younger brother, the mother, and my Uncle Lewis. It's a triple homicide.
Wow. Any motive behind that?
He just...
Snaps?
Yeah, sick. Going through it. Mental illness, got in an argument with his mother. Her younger brother was supposed to move to New Jersey with us. I was going to take David in, my brother-in-law, and he was going through it with the family and everything. So I said, have your brother stay with us. I loved him. He was my brother-in-law. I just tried to get him to come to Jersey, get away from Junior. And the mother was doing better. But they got in an argument one weekend, and she was supposed to go there with Gianna. And I was like, that's not going to happen, because he was calling every night, not making any sense. My
your instincts
kicked
are up.
in. Yeah, and I'm like, nah. And if you're going to go to Pennsylvania, I got to go. So I stopped. I didn't let her go. And then 2 days later, we get the phone call, and I come back into work. And then I'm about to get on the desk. I'm doing a little bit of light duty. I go upstairs, and then I get a call to come back downstairs, going to the chief's office, and then I got the state police from Pennsylvania on the phone. And the first thing out of the state trooper's mouth is like, do you know a Gladys Mendez, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that's my wife at the time name. And then when the trooper said David Mendez, I was like, well, she got a mother. She's named after her mother. I said, David is the brother. And I said, what happened? I said, and it's the state trooper. So, we're on the job. And long story short, he started running down everybody's name. And then I said, what did Junior do? Because I already knew some of the problems that were going on. And then he was sorry to inform you that, there was a triple homicide. And then, Gladys, the mother, David, my Uncle Lewis, and then Demetrius, which is Junior, we called him, had taken their life.
So after he did this triple homicide, he took his own life?
No, he went to prison.
He went to prison?
At the end of the day, going to court all the time and seeing things. And, we saw him. He pled guilty to it. He wanted to go to trial and plead some other things, but we pretty much convinced him that, take responsibility for what he did. I didn't want him to bring I talked to him in the cell by himself, which was a little rare in light of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not a little guy, dude.
No.
Yeah.
So that was that's one of the things that, that I was allowed to do in the situation, because when you murder a cop's family, the system is going to look a little different to you when you're locked up.
Yeah, it's one of the perks I think we used to have. I don't think they have that anymore. Yeah.
They knew that when I walked into court, that's what happened. So, it was part in the Red Sea. No one said anything. It's like, went in there and talked to him. I said, the last thing I said, I'm not going to come see you ever. I said, but you don't need to drag your sister through going through all the stuff that you did, because I saw the file. I saw what he did. It had the schematics of the scene. I've been to the house, we took over the home and had to sell it, and, the crime scene investigation, the photos and everything. I said, you need to spare her that. You did it, so... and it wasn't going to be done with that. That wasn't the only people on the list of things to do.
What did this do to your then wife's psyche?
It was downhill from there.
Yeah.
Downhill. And obviously I suffered behind that, because it's a survivor's guilt She no longer wanted to be around, and then and there began the problem.
So I've often said to you, your one mistake in your previous marriage, this is what you're guilty of. The one thing you're guilty of. You're guilty of trying to keep your family together, which is not a chargeable offense. That's actually a noble cause that you're trying to do. And you watched your family, and you're trying to shield these two young, beautiful children when your wife at the time is in crisis. I mean, she's not doing well.
She needed help.
Yeah.
She needed the court system. And I think the system itself, obviously in the department at some point during that process, failed me at a high level.
Well, yeah, as you move forward, they failed you on numerous occasions.
Yeah.
So how did this affect your police work job? Were you able to shut it out to some extent? I mean, that's a tough thing to shut out.
It becomes a point where now we have other things. We have things that are happening inside the police department that are now running coincided with my situation at home with my ex-wife.
You're no longer the golden child.
Nah.
You're no longer on the A team.
Not at all.
And that seemed to be the way our department went, is you started out on the A team, and then the minute you said anything or questioned or just spoke up, you were put on the B team. It stinks that way because as a boss, okay, if you're a good boss, you should have one person around you at all times to tell you, hey, bro, you're doing something that's a little fucked up.
Right.
All right, not in front of everybody, because that's not what you need. You need to have that confidant to keep you in check. And we didn't have that there. So I know you started to verbalize some of your things, some of the things that you saw as a deficiency within the department, and I think that's probably what killed you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So now you're fighting this two-front war. And being any type of military tactician, what's the first thing they tell you? Never fight a two-front war. It's a recipe for disaster. You're at home, you're trying to keep your house together, and now all of a sudden the department is coming in and they're hitting you, so you're getting hit from all different angles. So who did you lean on at this time?
I was on my own. And and it's just like only God knows. You know what I mean? There's like a guy leaning into something, right? The faith's in place, you keep the hope, I'm trying to get they're coming for me on the job. The ex-wife's saying and making false allegations and complaining, and I'm going to court all the time. Now the job's got something going on. It's like, where do you begin?
I remember hearing about one of the situations where you had a domestic or whatever it was. I remember hearing about it, and my initial reaction was like, oh no. Oh no. And you took some heat for it inside the department. I don't know how you kept it straight, bro. I really don't know how you kept it straight.
You know what's disheartening and the shame that I'm pretty tactical, and I know the rules that come behind the DVs. But to protect my daughter and son from my wife's crisis, I removed my weapons from my house myself voluntarily.
They were your father's weapons.
Some of them,
yeah.
And then I had my personal, and then it's the department weapon.
So for people who are listening who aren't in police work, when you get a domestic violence complaint where a temporary restraining order is put into place, you get your weapons taken from you.
Right.
And taking a cop's weapon, it's like taking their genitalia away from them. It's really emasculating. It's really embarrassing.
Right.
It's an awful experience. And you had to go through that all at once. All at once. Where the department, listen, that's procedural. That's right. Not, you can't blame that on the department. That's procedural. But then the department's trying to backdoor you and do all these different things. And there was this slow progression where you get back on the road for a little bit and then something else would pop off.
Well, see, the thing is with the slow progression, they didn't start to not follow SOP. They didn't start following retraining. They didn't do the things that they would do in progression as, okay, you got to go to anger management. But how do I go to anger management when I have custody of my daughter and son and the ex-wife has therapeutic visitation?
That's a big deal.
It's like, how do you make that make it make sense to me?
The state of New Jersey said you were not angry enough to watch your children, but you were too angry to be a police officer.
Police officer. And then, the matter of fact, what made it real difficult for them is that because I didn't have a restraining order, how do you keep me off the road with my duty weapon? So when you look at the balances, now you see the ill intent that's involved. As long as the complaints were coming in, now it's just an open investigation that stays current in your current situation.
So why do you think they went after you so hard?
That could become because I just started, like you said, you started looking at the discrepancies within the department. You start looking at the things that aren't right. Obviously lawsuits came at a later point based on certain aspects of mistreatment or violating certain laws, that we're governed under. It's just like, some people had immunity and some people weren't being held accountable, or you were dropping a hammer on people that you were going way beyond the scope of your your authority. When I was looking at my situation and going through things, I sat on that desk for 3 years.
Yes, longest stretch ever.
3 years.
You beat my record.
Yeah.
You beat my record. I was 9 months.
That was the punishment.
That was a punishment because you're not a guy that sits indoors.
No.
But see, here's your valuable weapon. Here's your most valuable asset in your life is you're an educated man. Mm. And so you use that time on the desk. I used to see you reading, doing, you're going through your court battles at home with your home life, and you're reading. You know case law better than anybody. You're basically a lawyer without the legal degree. And then you're fighting to keep your family together. You're fighting to keep your house, which that magic trick and all that was
a magic hat, right?
That was an amazing magic trick. So, and then finally one day, the hammer drops. But there was some backdoor stuff on this.
Yes.
They said you can't get your weapon back. Obviously, you can't be a police officer without your weapon.
Right.
So talk a little bit about that, because that's kind of screwy the way that happened.
They preemptively did things, and we knew that the fix was in because they preemptively had talked to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor was relaying back to the chief that they had me, that they were going to do all these wonderful things to get me off the job. I'm not a police officer in Morris County. I'm a police officer in Essex County. So the jurisdiction issue was a problem. I don't have an open case anymore. All the appellate division decisions came back, and I won them. And then when I come back to the police department, there was orders to give me my weapon back. The chief at the time refused to give me my weapon back based on the order from the court. So he refused to do what he wanted to do for that, and then called in the favor back to the prosecutor's office to write a writ, which goes to the Supreme Court of New Jersey. And so I had to go to Trenton. So when that went down, long story short, I go down there and then we had this discussion. Now, end of the day, which should have never been heard. You're talking about a case that's for over 4 years old, but they kept trying to drill down the thing because Morris County never had jurisdiction, but they needed that to happen because I was terminated preemptively before all my cases were done. And then when I won the case and came back to the department and gave them the letter that, this got dismissed.
So I remember the day you were no longer a police officer, they changed the code because we used to have those punch codes in the back door. They changed that, and a memo went out.
Right.
When they have never done that for anybody who retired.
No.
They never did that for anybody who left the department. It just never happened. So why you? That's something I rack my brain with. And I hate to say it's because of the color of your skin, because I know from my perspective, inside the police department, there was no color. There was no color. It's you were blue, I was blue. We work on the same team. We're brothers at that point. But damn, if it doesn't seem like that.
Well, it almost leaves you with no other reasoning to not see it that way at some aspects, because let's take away the color basis of black, white, and anything else that's there. You got 3 officers that are in the same situation almost at the same time.
Yes.
Right? And I'm going to leave the officer's name off of this because I respect them as they respect me. But the treatment in which one had was sitting on the desk prior to me. I'm on the desk second, but I got the longest stretch. Another officer has a situation and gets released because, see, this is when I knew it was the ill intent. because I said, if this officer gets released before me, and I've already been sitting on this desk for over 2 years, and gets released, goes through everything I already went through, and gets released to go back on the road, and I'm still here, then it's going to be
There's something wrong.
there's something wrong, right? Whether that be the color of my skin or the situation that they're trying to leverage something, or they have something that's ill intent in favors of being done. So you're trying to find this thing, but see, you left me with no other reason, with only but a wrongful termination, because no officer till this day, none of us have a record. I don't have a record. Everything that happened against me was dismissed.
Was it so? The official reason why you were terminated was
I'm incapacitated.
because you're not allowed to carry a weapon
The
anymore.
weapon. So it didn't make any sense that you have this decision, and at the time, I still had my personal weapon. There's no restraint order. So I'm incapacitated on the job. I'm still sitting here at this situation, terminated for incapacitation, but I have my personal weapon. So what they went after me for my personal weapon. Because if I can't how can I have this and not be able to go to work?
Right.
They don't make sense. Because see, now you're jockeying the two things. There's no case law against that. I have a constitutional right to bear arms. And now some of the laws have changed, which we have to go back and revisit. They did that so my PTC qualification would expire.
Right. 3 years. 3 years.
Right. Once the PTC qualification expired, they had what they needed, whether I had the weapon or not, because I haven't kept my qualification current.
That's crazy.
So they kept delaying on purpose because they had nothing else. So it was done with ill intent. And then the wrongful termination after went back to court, and Judge Critchley, good man, good judge. He was pro-police, and he heard every case that I've had, amongst other judges. And some things just didn't make sense.
I remember you mentioning that name.
Judge Critchley. He was a good man. And he did everything that was right. He was just and fair. Some things, could have went a different way, but he's the one that ordered my weapon back. I had lawyers that came in, and things, it's just the ill intent. And just every time I just got across that goal line, just about to hit the goal line, someone snatched it back. So you're looking at the constant push and pull, constantly like just about right there. You can't have this much fumbling and mishap and ill intent every time I'm about to win, because the win means that more people are going to get in trouble or get fired or held accountable to their behavior and actions.
You're going through all this. You're getting banged from every single direction. And then something happens. And this is one of the reasons you're so important to me.